The main reason is the fact that we have a strong political commitment to cybersecurity. Take this from me as advisor. I think political commitment has been one of the fundamental successes, determinant that has really brought us this far. But most importantly, I think we've also been privileged to have a champion for cybersecurity in the person of the Minister for Communications, Honorable Wesley Owusu, who has persistently led the fights, led the charge towards improving Ghana's cybersecurity readiness. I think we're grateful for the leadership of the country, but also for the technical working group for their support in getting to where we have gotten to. Let's continue and scale up our digital protection.
The technical working group has been divided into subgroups. We have the criminal justice, defense and intelligence, stakeholder engagement sub-working group, and the SET, that's the computer emergency response team sub-working groups. And all these groups have worked assiduously to see the level that we have in cybersecurity as a nation. And outside this country, Ghana is recognized as one of the leading nations when it comes to cybersecurity.
NCA is the telecommunications sector regulator in Ghana. Telecommunications is one of the critical sectors, according to Ghana's national cybersecurity strategy and policy. Now, in the past, there has only been CERGH that was established in 2014, but following the efforts by government, several sectors, including telecommunications, have set up cybersecurity teams and sets, of which NCA is one.
Being a member of the National Cyber Technical Working Group has been very profitable, both to my institution, to the group, and also to the National Cybersecurity Center. In this wise, there have been certain occasions where discussions has led us to get people to help my institution. And as I speak, as a part or a member of the criminal justice sector, we were able to negotiate successfully with the FBI, or let's call it legal attaché of the US Embassy, and YOCO, the Ghana Police Service, were equipped with tools to forensically examine digital devices. And as I speak, they have given us computers, they have given us tools, they have also established a lab for us. If it has not been because of the national cybersecurity collaboration, we wouldn't have come this far.
Our contribution is very significant in the sense that when you look at the different areas that the critical national infrastructure falls in, everyone and every entity for that matter uses personal data for different purposes. For collecting data on travelers or employees or citizens one way or the other, people who are doing the right thing, people who are malicious and trying to do the wrong things. All these categories of individuals have rights under the Data Protection Act to be protected.
The mandate for the FIC and the collaboration between the National Cybersecurity Office is one of very deep collaboration, because we at the FIC see cybersecurity and cybercrime as one of the predicate offenses of money laundering and terrorist financing.
The National Communications Authority has supported the National Cybersecurity Center's efforts, which led to the accession of the Budapest Convention by Ghana.
From GCNet's perspective, we've come in as a public-private partner. We've partnered with the National Cybersecurity Secretariat. First, we sponsor the program because we believe that what the Secretariat is doing actually bodes well for the nation.
Thank you for this day. Thank you for the gifts of life. Thank you for the gifts of human love. Thank you for bringing us here safely. We pray committing our event into your mighty hands. Take charge and make us successful this day. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Please have your seat. It's my privilege and honor to welcome you to day 3 of week 2 of our National Cybersecurity Awareness Month program. Please, you are very welcome. I thought I'll get a response. Thank you too. Okay, so today we'll be focusing on cybercrime schemes in the era of COVID-19. cybercrime schemes in the era of COVID-19. So maybe after this session, should I meet you outside to interrogate you on anything? At least you should remember the focus for the day: cybercrime schemes in the era of COVID-19. And we are going to have I'm going to run you through the activities for today. We are going to have a presentation, and then we are going to have several messages from our various sponsors. And then we are going to have an opening remark also by the National Cybersecurity Advisor. And then we'll have a panel discussion right after the health break. So without much ado, I would want to crave your indulgence to listen to the opening remarks of the National Cybersecurity Advisor. Thank you.
A very good morning to all of you. A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to this workshop on cybercrime. Workshop on cybercrime in the era of COVID-19. COVID-19 has become a terminology, and it's not only a terminology as far as cybersecurity or the cyberspace is concerned, but it has also led to certain developments. Even the way criminals go about undermining ICT platforms and the trust that we all have in the internet. Ghana has recorded a number of COVID-19 related cyber crimes. And it's good that we put this workshop together to also seek the perspective views of both industry players but also the public. The Interpol recently released a report which also highlighted a number of issues that have come up during COVID-19. One area of concern is the protection of critical information infrastructure, especially the health sector, especially knowing that COVID-19 primarily is impacting the health sector. So criminal groups have targeted that particular sector, seeking to undermine the very infrastructure that is protecting citizens all over the world. But even ordinary public have had issues. We've had issues of malicious campaigns targeting people. Indeed, there's a political season, and you have certain fake news being published on social media about COVID-19 status of prominent public figures, including members of parliament, just to, of course, undermine their political campaigns. But there has also been the spread of malicious programs. Malware programs are being circulated, being distributed through spam emails with COVID-19 teams, including relief packages that citizens are being requested to apply for. We've also seen phishing emails, which obviously have COVID-19 related teams, and unfortunately, unsuspected victims have fallen to this kind of attacks. There has been generally a malicious campaign and misinformation, including supposedly medications that are available to fight or cure COVID-19 related illnesses. I think it is important as a community to come together to have a discussion on what are the current trends in these areas, how do we prevent some of these malicious activities affecting our digital ecosystem. What are the various stakeholders doing? What are the perspectives from the different industry stakeholders, but also public? At the end of the day, I think the goal is to ensure the safety of a public user. And we believe that once we engage with relevant parties, including experts who are actually working in this particular space, we'll be able to understand the current dynamics and how best, most importantly, we can protect ourselves as people. I will therefore invite all of you to contribute, to share your experiences, because the National Cybersecurity Center is interested in whatever goes on. We are building a report, for example, covering the current developments within the critical information infrastructure sector with respect to COVID-19 related attacks. And we are also interested in hearing from the public the various emails, spams, and scams that are going on, and at the end of the day, we'll be able to have a better picture of the impact of COVID-19 on even cybercrime offending within our jurisdiction. I will therefore entreat you to contribute, support the center, and let all of us engage to ensure a safer digital Ghana. I thank all of you for joining us, both by being here, but also joining us through our various virtual platforms. Thank you.
Please be informed that this event is also streaming live on our social media platforms, just as the National Cybersecurity Advisor mentioned. On YouTube, National Cybersecurity Center Ghana, Facebook, Cybersecurity Ghana, and on www.ncsamtv.live. Kindly share the link on your respective platforms. Thank you. Up next on our program, we have a message from our sponsor, Deloitte Ghana.
As the technology and threat landscapes change, so do your cybersecurity needs. When you think cybersecurity, think Deloitte. We offer a highly trusted and credible brand. Alongside our advisory and implementation services, we also provide advanced managed security services through a mature global network of cyber intelligence centers. Our centers operate 24/7 to provide advanced security operations, including threat intelligence, threat monitoring, threat hunting, and security analytics. We can extend our managed security services by additional offerings, such as application security testing or cyber incident response. We offer a wide range of services because we recognize that our clients' needs vary widely, depending on the sector, size, and maturity of their organization. Regardless of industry, whether you are a multinational financial services provider, a major retailer, manufacturer, public institution, or healthcare provider, we tailor our approach and delivery to fit your requirements and focus on your most critical assets and business needs. Whether you are looking to protect your cloud, deploy IoT security, detect and minimize fraud, or manage any other of your security challenges, Deloitte's Managed Security Services will be there to help. With Deloitte, you can manage cyber risk in a way that allows you to unleash new opportunities. Through our global network of cyber intelligence centers, we provide local delivery and presence. We speak your language and understand your business and culture. We are often selected due to our next-generation threat intelligence capabilities. Thanks to the wealth of experience with clients across the world, we maximize intelligence and constantly optimize our solutions. Deloitte's Managed Security Services. When you think cybersecurity, think Deloitte.
A presentation on the impact of money laundering and cybercrime in the era of COVID-19. This is going to be done by the Deputy Chief Manager, Head of Information Technology, Mr. Kofi. Thank you very much.
Now, officers of the Nigeria.
Good morning once again. I don't even know where to put myself. Because I'm on an elevated pulpit and I see you as my church members. So I now understand why on Monday or thereabouts, one of the speakers came up. And before he started, he almost said, Hallelujah. But anyway, hallelujah all the same. My name is Kofi Boache. I come from the Financial Intelligence Center. And we would like to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the money laundering environment as well as the cybersecurity environment. But before I do that, I would like to know, I come from a family of teachers, so we talk a lot. Abner knows teachers talk a lot. But I'll try to limit this presentation to the 40 or 45 minutes that have been given me. Now, looking around, I see young people, I see old people. I also see a couple of students and so on. And just as the National Cybersecurity Advisor said and advised, we should be interactive. I don't know it all, and it would be great if, as a teacher, I facilitate talking in between us, and I facilitate discussions among us. So that's primarily what I'm going to do. So when I call you to answer, Abner, why are you already? Just feel free and say what you know, okay? We want it to be as interactive as possible. The topic has the word impact in it. And to be honest with you, and coming from an academic background, to isolate something or a variable as an impact on money laundering or cybersecurity is quite difficult. They will tell you that you did not put in a model, or you did not have a formula running from here to say a circle to say that this is the impact. If you talk about an impact, there should be at least a model or some algorithm or some formula somewhere to really say this is the impact of A on B. So for my beautiful audience, I will judge it to you after the presentation. You yourselves will determine the impact. And so, like I said earlier, probably I might call you to tell me the impact, how you see it. Now, to be on level with everyone, because it's a learning process, I would want to know, honestly, by hand, before we start talking terminologies that probably you may not understand. How many of you have heard about the Financial Intelligence Center? Oh, just a couple, a handful, okay. How many of you know about money laundering? Is money laundering? Oh, quite a lot of you. Okay. Let me just give, or better still, let me strategy so that you would understand it better. I'll give you a very brief presentation on the Financial Intelligence Center, what it does, and you link it up to what cybercrime and cybersecurity is all about. Okay. Could we have the first video?
The money laundering process involves the placement of the cash into financial institutions such as banks, followed by layering the money laundering process involves the placement of the cash into financial institutions such as banks, followed by layering the funds through a web of accounts to hide the identity of the real owner of the funds, and that the funds are obtained through criminal activities. For example, we see a person walks into a bank to deposit cash.
Hi.
Hello, sir. How may I help you?
I would like to deposit 500,000 cedis into my bank account.
Sure, sir. Please fill in this deposit slip while I count the cash.
Okay.
Sir, may I ask you, why these small notes?
This is cash from my business.
Okay, sir. Here is the receipt for the deposit. May I help you with anything else?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you for banking with us. I think there is something unusual here. I'll report it to the compliance team. They would know what to do with it.
Once the compliance team gets the teller's report, they examine the client and the nature of the transaction. In this case, the transaction is found suspicious and it is reported as a suspicious transaction report (STR) to the Financial Intelligence Center (FIC). When the FIC gets a suspicion transaction report from a report entity, it triggers the analytical team to evaluate it using a standard operating procedure. The first step done by the analyst in the FIC is conducting a search on their intelligence database to find any other known facts on the person, entity, and accounts reported on. The FIC team found several cash threshold reports on the same person, revealing that he has 3 other accounts in 3 different banks. The analysis team would send an electronic request for full account disclosure to the 4 banks where the subject of interest has accounts. The response from the banks with the full account statements comes back electronically and gets integrated into the FIC intelligence database. All the communication is secure and encrypted. Once the full account statements are received by the FIC from the banks, the analysis team starts looking for networks of transactions, accounts, persons and companies that are contained in the statements received from the banks. The financial data contained in the STR, CTR, ECTR, and the account statements forms half of the intelligence picture. The other half is the information that the FIC collects from other government agencies to add context to the financial data to enable interpretation of the financial transactions. Once the full account statements are received by the FIC from the banks, the analysis team starts looking for networks of transactions, accounts, persons and companies that are contained in the statement received from the banks. The FIC collects data electronically from several agencies such as National Identity Authority, Registrar General, Ghana Revenue Authority, Customs, Immigration, Criminal Intelligence Department, Vehicle and Driver Authority, Electoral Commission, National Health Insurance. The response to the request for information is received electronically, and the data from the government databases is integrated into the intelligence database of the FIC. The FIC now has the complete picture, composed of financial data collected and context information collected from government agencies. The analysis team concludes the analytical process by creating an intelligence product that consists of an executive summary, an intelligence hypothesis, and a report write-up that describes in detail the process that the FIC went through to form the conclusions contained in the intelligence hypothesis. The intelligence product will also have profits for the persons, accounts, and companies that form part of the case, and network diagrams that explain relationships between the suspects and money flows over time. The package will also include all documents collected during the analysis process and the related financial transactions. The FIC creates actionable intelligence package that is a blueprint for guiding the law enforcement agency conducting the investigation. Once the package is created and approved, the FIC disseminates the information package to the relevant law enforcement agencies electronically in a secure and encrypted manner. Once the intelligence package is disseminated by the FIC to the relevant law enforcement agencies, they may act on the intelligence package and start an investigation. During the course of the investigation, the officers working on the case may request additional intelligence from the FIC to support the investigation, such as additional intelligence packages on discovered persons or discovered entities or discovered accounts revealed during the course of the investigation. Once the intelligence is translated into evidence by the law enforcement agency, the suspect will be apprehended and assets that are proven to be proceeds of crime are seized and the case docket goes to the prosecutors. The prosecutors now have enough evidence to present the case in front of court and hopefully get a conviction, and the confiscated assets are returned to treasure. In a nutshell, this is the process that the FIC are enabled to perform from now on, starting from today, to combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and to assist law enforcement agencies combating crime in general. The money
You do, thank you. Next slide, please. We just had a little information about the FIC. So what we sought to do was to inform you that this is not a non-governmental agency, it's not an NGO, it's not a private institution, it is a government institution that has been set up by law, Act 749 as amended, and which is even going to be amended further within the few weeks ahead of us. So we say someone commits an offense of money laundering if the person knows or ought to have known that the property is or forms part of the proceeds of unlawful activity, and the person either converts, conceals, disguises, or transfers the property, conceals or disguises the unlawful origin of the property, or acquires, uses, or takes possession of the property. So, if you are a cyber criminal and you are doing Sakawa, you should know that that Sakawa you are doing is money laundering. You are taking money illegally and then possibly washing it by passing it through the banking system or the formal financial system. If you have a friend who engages in, say, let me still use the Sakawa for the sake of understanding, and he gets money, and you go and enjoy it, knowing very well, whether you knew or even if you didn't know, that that money was illegally acquired and you partook of it, by law, you have also committed what? Money laundering. So whether you know or whether you don't know is no excuse. You should know the origin or the source of whatever financial gain you make or whatever property you acquire. Are we on course? All right. Next slide, please. So, it was said, we receive financial disclosures from the financial industry. All the banks in Ghana, whether rural, whether urban, the rural banks, the conventional banks we know, all of them are mandated by law, and even the forex bureaus. In fact, all financial institutions are to report any suspicious transaction to the FIC. So if the bank suspects, just as you saw in the video, that the transaction you are conducting is suspicious, they are by law required to report immediately, within 24 hours, to the FIC that A walked into the bank, attempted to give me this money, or decided to open an account with this amount of money, or even withdrew. For instance, if he came and the teller was asking too many questions and he went off, he decided he wouldn't even continue with the transaction or with the opening of the account and so on, that bank or that financial institution is required by law to report to the FIC. Likewise, if anyone, for instance, you're a student and you come up to the teller and you tell the teller you're a student and you want to open an account, and the teller asks you what the frequency of your deposits will be, where will you be gaining or getting your money from? And you tell him or her, oh, maybe my parents are abroad, so they send it for school fees, or my father has a land and he wants me to keep the money for him, and so on and so forth. The account is monitored. So if you get unusually huge deposits, it is reported to the FIC. And so that's the first one. We receive financial disclosures from all financial institutions in Ghana. Again, whenever we receive that, we are supposed to, by law, collect that information, keep it, and then give it to the law enforcement agencies. When we get that intelligence, you're a student, you get that amount of money you come, what we do is we link up with all government databases and find out more information about you and then give it to the law enforcement agencies. So in one word, probably you can call us as Kokonsa people. All right? But we don't do Kokonsa. You tell us, we do it, and then we give the information lawfully to those who can act on it and who can do things with it. Next slide, please. Now, we don't deal with the financial institutions. We deal with almost everyone. And now, if you suspect somebody of doing something illegal financially, whether it be proceeds of cybercrime, you live by a house where some group of people are doing something fishy, you see them always, laughing in big cars and affording very huge rent and all those things. We also encourage you to do what? The Kokonsa. Tell us about it. Let's find out what is happening so that we can have a very clean financial system. And so there you have that link. It will be good to put it down so that if you see or hear of any cybercrime activity, or you see or hear of any suspicious transactions that are going on, you just go to this URL there and tell us about it. We will contact you, get fuller details, and do the necessary groundwork. So we receive all types of reports. The suspicious transaction one is what I told you about. The second one we take is the CTR, which is the cash threshold or cash transaction report. Anyone in Ghana who takes a minimum of 50,000 from the counter from any bank or financial institution, when you take 50,000 from the counter, it is reported immediately to the FIC. Not because you're a criminal. I mean, you could be using it to buy something, maybe a car or a land or something. But we just keep it for record's sake so that we also understand the nature of the money flows, the money and how it is flowing in and out. We do not use it until your name comes up for having done something illegal. Now, 50,000, formerly it was 20,000 cedis. Whenever you took 20,000 in cash from the bank, or you deposited a minimum of 20,000 and more into the bank, it's always reported to the FIC. And so you can imagine the hundreds of thousands of reports we get in a day. We are very rich, you know that. When it was 20,000, we had in a week more than how many? In the millions. When it came to 50,000 initially, we revised that about 3 years ago. It was now 50,000. Lots of people have it. Abna, don't you have it? And so it goes up. The numbers now on a daily basis on cash transaction reports are up. We have the electronic funds transfer. When somebody sends you money or you send money above $10,000, that one too is reported, and so on and so forth. We have the politically exposed person report. Who can give me an example of that? Do you understand that report? The politically exposed person report? A politically exposed person is either a politician or somebody who is related to a politician. Okay? That's the politically exposed person. So if your uncle or your dad or your brother or yourself is a politician, whenever you go to the financial institutions to go and conduct any transaction, it is reported to us as well. Not for any bad reasons, but just to keep the flow of finances clean as per international standards and as per the mandate of the FIC. Are we making headway? You see the link between cybersecurity, cybercrime, and the FIC. All right, next slide, please. I think we've just gone through this one. So what we do here is not too clear, but let me tell you what. We are of the institutions in Ghana that has direct access to several databases of the government. Okay? It wasn't like that formally, but until 2 years or so, we went into memorandum of understanding with all the government agencies. You know, you cannot fight cybercrime alone. Usually it's not one person. You cannot fight money laundering alone. It's usually not one person. It's a group or multiple number of persons who conduct that. So, if I want to find out about any one of you, all I need is your name, and then within a maximum of 3 to 4 minutes, I can profile you, okay? I know details about your DVLA if you have a car. I can immediately see whether you own a company, because we go with the Registrar General's department. We can just immediately know whether you are linked to a company. We know your Electoral Commission, your EC details. We know your police records, because we also have a direct access into the database of the CID. So immediately we can just pick you. So within 3 to 5 minutes, we can profile you and say, oh, this person traveled here, did this, went here, has this company, has this driver's license with such details, and so on and so forth. We are able to do that. Why? Because with issues like terrorism, when somebody is coming to deploy a bomb, we do not have the luxury of time to write a letter, give it to the driver, send it to CID, send it to BNI, send it to Iyoko, and so on. We do not have that luxury of time. We also do not have that luxury of time to write emails and sync and find out and wait for replies. And that is why the FIC is part of the National Security Center's technical working group. It's a matter of a phone call. They just call me and I say, these are the details of the person. Or if I want information from them, it's an exchange. And so within a few minutes, we're able to profile and probably do something about the deployment of the rather writing letters or sending emails and so on and so forth. Right. So I think we can. Oh, okay. So with this one, like I said, we disseminate that information electronically and quickly to the relevant agencies. And the Cybersecurity Center is one of the agencies that requests information from us, and which we also give information to on real-time basis, or supposed to be in real-time basis. Now, we do the communication not via normal email because of the sensitivity of it. Some of the information borders on politicians, it borders on national security. Okay? It borders on people you and I know and probably love, and who can somersault the economy in very, very little time. And so some of the information is very sensitive. So you can imagine in this COVID era, how many hits at our systems we get in a day. because we have so much information and so much data that we are almost always a prime factor or a very good target for most criminals. Criminals depend on data, they depend on information. So they would want to know this guy, how much he has in his bank, what are his withdrawals and deposits. When they know that, it's good for them because they can call you and tell, oh, I know that you've been depositing this, I'm from this bank, I know that you've been depositing this and that, I want to help you, I want to do this, I want to do that. In the examples I will show, we'll just give you a couple of them. And so we do not use the normal email system because it can be very easily hacked into or intercepted, as is now the case with most of these financial transactions. People are sitting at home doing nothing. And maybe that's where my being here and looking like a preacher fits in. Because they say the devil finds what work for the idle hands. Very good. These my students are good though. Okay, next slide please. Over the years, the cybercrime activity has been increasing, both in volume and in cash transaction. So you can see from 2015, when we had just down at the bottom where you have the totals, actually they are in USD, United States dollars. In 2015, we had 21 million thereabouts cases that were directly involved with cybercrime and money laundering. People were hacking into people's emails, were transferring monies across illegally, and so on. We had 21. If someone can see what 2019 is, kindly tell me, what's the figure? I just gave you a praise barely 2 minutes ago. Remember, I want to make it interactive. What? Anyone? Means you can't see from where you sit. Pardon? Yes, sir. Let's give a clap. Thank you so much. See, I told you I was a teacher. Sometimes, when the numbers are so big, it's difficult to mention them. But we had in excess of $340 million alone being referred to in cybercrime activity. And so you can see the leaps over the years. And this year, I'm being careful about it, but we have exceeded this amount already because of COVID. People are sitting at home and doing all sorts of things. I'm sure within the last 2 weeks you've heard a lot, so I wouldn't want to go back through them. But now it's on the rise and it's on the increase. And there are several ways in which people are doing it. Our observations, next slide please, are that people open bank accounts and they are credited regularly with huge sums of money without any known business or source of income. So you can have a student account receiving on a daily basis $5,000 every day. Yet the guy is a student. So what's happening? When you ask them, that's the second one, what do you do? Why are you doing this? They are unwilling to provide information. And then they tell you, I'm even stopping my relationship with you. When you tell the bank that, they also tell you, we are freezing your accounts and reporting you to the FIC. People are doing all sorts of wrong documentation, false documentation. You see them every day. They tell you in your emails, I'm sure you've noticed the rise. In your emails, you see, please click this invoice for the goods that you ordered last week or last 2 months or this or that. Sometimes when you click it, it's not only a phishing site, but it will actually produce a document for you purporting that you have paid so much for these goods and that the goods are on their way and so on and so forth. All those are falsified financial information, and people are using that to try and apply for loans and credit facilities and so on. You will have dual or multiple identities of customers. You see, because of the cyber ecosystem, you're able to very easily replicate some or all of your IDs. So in one bank, you open an account with your passport. In another, you open it with your driver's license. In another bank, you open it with your, what is it? Yes, the Ghana card, and so on and so forth. So when we see that, it's not that you probably are doing it intentionally. Maybe at the time you're opening an account, that was the ID card that you had. But of course, there are investigations that will prove that. And so we've seen that all those monies and all those things, people change themselves through the ID card system and use it to defraud the banks. They present fake statements from other banks saying that they want a loan with you and this and that. The bank does all its due diligence but fails to see, or probably fails to get to the credit regulatory and find out and then give out the loan. You trace the person and he's no longer there. Okay? The rest are there for you to see. Yes. So insurance claims and all those things. And it's unfortunate that with the false insurance claims, you see even government hospitals, bringing up claims for the national health insurance, saying that patient A came and this was the treatment that was given to him. And you have people signing and saying, yes, this has been certified, and so let the payment go. And we see it. And all these are observations that we see. That was 2019. 2020, we have even more advanced typologies. Next slide, please. And I'm speaking after having made reference to authorities, from Interpol, from Europol, from Ghana Police Service, from Egmont, from FATF, and from Open Source. We have newer ways. Because the banks are very highly regulated, because the rural banks are now very highly regulated, people need to find other ways to sneak money or to perform money laundering activities. The old ways are past. And each time, like we keep on hearing, the criminals always want to be a step ahead. So now we are having mobile money transfers in huge sums without taxation. You go to the shops or whatever, they tell you, this is my Momo, pay it in. When you pay it in, more often than not, you may not even get a VAT receipt, would you? You just pay it in, and the whoever, the teller or whoever, just says the money has been received and gives you the goods. There's no duty on it, there's no tax on it, so these are ways and means people are using now to swerve, in quotes, the system. Okay? One thing I forgot to mention, if you just go back one slide, was the Egmont. Ghana is part of what we the Egmont Group of Financial Intelligence Units. This is a group of about 159 countries. And when we want information, be it from the president to whoever in any country, we are able to talk to the Egmont Group Secretariat, and then we get the information. So when you give us or when I want to profile you, I can quickly ask all 159 countries what they have on you. Maybe you're a businessman, you travel, you have companies, you have this, you have that. Being a member of the Egmont Group is quite a challenging one. But at the same time, you have a lot of information. You have real-time information about terrorists, about terrorist activities. You have information about terror counts, and so on. But one thing is that if you ever compromise on a document sent by Egmont to you, you're likely to be, let me now use the word blacklisted from the Egmont Group. Just one document. If it gets missing, our sister country, I don't want to mention the name, had one document which I think the officer left inadvertently on the table, and the cleaner picked it up, and it went viral. That country was suspended for almost a year on that document, because these are very sensitive documents. So you can imagine how jealously we guard the information that is given us. If a suspicious transaction on any PEP, for instance, is given to us, we don't go around saying, hey, this politician has this money, or this politician has this, or he went to buy this, or he went to do that. Have you ever heard some before coming from the FIC? Have you? You haven't. So I was expecting that at least you give me a clap, because FIC has guarded very jealously all the information that comes from it. So we can go ahead now, please. The Financial Action Task Force, that is FATF. How many of you have heard of FATF? Okay, from here, do Google it. But FATF is the body and tell that you are blacklisted. FATF is the global standard setter for financial action that can just say this country is blacklisted because of money laundering issues. And when you are blacklisted because of money laundering issues, the whole world gets to know. Do you know some of the consequences of being blacklisted? Right now, we've heard of EU saying they'll blacklist Ghana, they'll do this, they'll do that. Who knows what a blacklisting entails? What it would mean? Any example? Okay, for the sake of time, let me just run along. But if a country is blacklisted, the effects on the financial system and the financial economy are very dire. They are very, very dire. Look, exports and imports will be affected, because whenever you are sending money or receiving money from your relations abroad, because it's a blacklisted country. If, for instance, Auntie Ya or Uncle Kojo wants to send you money to Ghana, today it's just and it's on your mobile phone. The moment the country is blacklisted, that immediate receipt of money will no longer be there. It will take you about 2 weeks to receive that. Because now they are going to call you. Are you the recipient? You say yes. They'll call you from there. How do you know this is your uncle? Oh, he's my uncle. He's my daddy's father, his brother, what? Okay, what work does he do? And so on and so forth. And then they'll also ask him every detail of the money to be sent. If you are going to pay for school fees outside, those of you doing online classes, school will blacklist your money and say they are doing investigations into it as to how come you got that money, as to who gave you that money, as to whether you've paid tax on that money, as to what you are using that money for, whether you are even educationally qualified to do the course that you want to do. By the time the investigations are over, they finished first term or first semester, and they tell you that, I'm sorry, we could not conclude investigations on you. That is how embarrassing it is. You can be in the, when you're traveling, for instance, at the airport. The moment they look at your passport, maybe outside here, we won't, but outside, the moment they look at it, it will come up blacklisted country. Excuse me, sir. Say yes. You're from Ghana? Yes, please. Kindly step aside, please. Yes, you know it happens. And you will step aside. And then one of the immigration officers will come. Please, how much money are you having on you? Oh, I have $800 for per diem. Oh, how did you get that? Oh, my office gave it to me for per diem. Can I see your tax receipt on it? Oh, I left that in the house. Is there any documentation on the per diem that you are having? Please, I'm sorry, I do not have that documentation on me right now. Do you have any proof of your employment, where you are, where you work, that we see? And so on and so forth. By the time you finish, the plane would have left. It's so embarrassing. And so to be blacklisted because of money laundering, it means we do not have the systems in place to curb people bringing in illegal money and using the country as a conduit for illegal money. And that's why we need all your support. That's why we need all your collaboration. That's why we need to talk with you. That's why we need to create awareness, as it is with the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We are learning about all these things from each other, so that together we can make Ghana a better place to stay. I hope you're on the right track, right? Now, so FATF is one body that every country fears, because the moment it tells you that you're blacklisted, there's a problem. Ghana currently is on the grey list. We were blacklisted in 2012. But to the dynamism of the FIC at the time and even now, within 6 months, we got off the blacklisting. They wanted to blacklist us again, probably. And so we have what we call the mutual evaluation report, where they come in and assess your systems, your points of entry, your financial system, your tax regime, and so on and so forth, and tell you, you are not compliant here, you are not compliant there. And if they tell you you are blacklisted, then you are in trouble. For now, Ghana is in the grey list. From grey to black is only a shade. So if we do not up our systems, if we do not curb money laundering, we are going to be blacklisted. So we are in the grey list, but thanks to the president's intervention and the various ministries, as well as the coordination between the FIC and them, we are fighting real hard to get out of the grey list. And that's why you hear the EU. EU doesn't have grey list, blacklist, whatever list. They just have blacklist or no blacklist. They pick it up from what FATF says. If FATF says you are grey list, okay, grey looks almost like black, so you're blacklist. As individuals, as citizens of Ghana, to move away from this thing. So FATF has identified that taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to carry out financial fraud and exploitation scams, including advertising and trafficking in counterfeit medicines, offering fraudulent investment opportunities, and engaging in phishing schemes that prey on virus-related fears. So you can see, FATF has identified that these things are on the increase. I would hate to use the word as one of their impacts, but we are seeing that people are defrauding people, People are exploiting people through this. I mean, look at the mobile money calls that you get on a daily basis. You are educated and probably you've had awareness, so you don't send back the mistaken money that was sent to you and so on and so forth. People are taking in money for charities. They are saying, oh, people, those who've died from the COVID and so on, their parents are dead and all that, so we need money to run orphanages and so on and so forth. All these are attempts at scams and eventually at fraudulent behavior. Next slide, please. So we've talked a bit about this social engineering, where you use the business email compromise and so on, where you pretend to be the director of a company. You know, now it's so easy to pretend to be someone. I can send an email to myself using my own email. And we get mails from the government sectors and all those things, purportedly coming from even the minister, coming from a CEO and so on. And when you look at the email, it's exactly the same, because there's software that now translates the originator to bear your name. And so huge monies gone because of intercepted emails and because of mails that were hacked into and so on and so forth. And that is something that is increasing. Next slide, please. I think later we can talk about them because of time. The last one there, because of IT security, you know, many of us work from home, and our kids may probably use our laptops or our pads, which has a direct link to our email system and so on and so forth. And through that, they may be answering your emails for you or being tempted to click on sites that come from purportedly genuine places. We've had several examples of that, of people leaving their laptops and iPads with their kids without the relevant knowledge, and their kids use them, and then the whole organization is phished, is scammed. Okay, so let's be careful about that. Whenever you are supposed to work from home, make sure that you log out of whatever security portal that you have before handing over whatever electronic devices you may have to your kids or to whoever wants them, even if someone just wants to borrow your laptop or computer or whatever. Next slide, please. There's this ATM fraud, which is also gaining notoriety. Kindly get me the second video and tell me your impression about this.
Now, officers of the Nigeria Customs Service, Murtala Mohammed International Airport Command. Officers of the Nigeria Customs Service, Murtala Mohammed International Airport Command have intercepted 2,863 ATM cards and SIM cards from a man traveling to Dubai. The items, which were concealed in a popular noodle carton, were uncovered upon examination at the check-in point. TVC News correspondent Ifunanya Eze reports.
Being in possession of multiple ATM cards is not a crime. But when an individual moves around with several banks' ATM cards bearing different names, that then raises suspicion. That is the case with this suspect who got intercepted with thousands of ATM cards and SIM cards at the international wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos. Customs operatives say they got alerted to his movement when they found that his luggage had a carton loaded with noodles, and on closer inspection was discovered to be concealing an undeclared number of ATM cards and SIM cards.
Officers decided to say, okay, somebody cannot just be carrying noodles and then taking it. So they decided to do a physical and thorough examination on the carton. They took him aside, ripped it open, and this is what they found. What interested is, why is he concealing them? He did not declare this thing that he's taking them out. And he's going out with them. And he's the only one in possession of 2,863 ATM cards.
These ATM, they are carrying money, even though they are in plastics, but they are carrying money. And like he said, you are supposed to have ATM that is attached to your name. But having this gamut of ATM raised a lot of suspicion.
The seized items and the suspects were handed over to officers of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for further investigation.
We are looking at allegation of foreign exchange malpractices, conspiracy, individuals that their names are involved in the SIM cards, as well as the accounts that are attached, as well as the bankers themselves and the banks that are involved. We are going to thoroughly investigate the matter. We are going to unravel what happened, and anybody that is found wanting in this transaction is going to be prosecuted.
Meanwhile, Nigerians have been warned against selling their bank accounts to criminal-minded individuals who deploy them for fraudulent purposes. Ifunanya Eze, TVC News.
Now,
so much. Do you see what's happening now? Now, money, there are so many answers to this. And they were handed over to our counterparts in Nigeria. That's the EFCC, Economic Financial Crimes Commission. That's the FIC of Nigeria. So you alone, you are in possession of 2,800 ATM cards. And all of them work. And you've put them in, how do we call it here? We don't say noodles. We say what? Indomie. Okay. We call it Indomie. Okay. So you've put them in an Indomie bag, and he was foolish enough to take it into the plane on the passenger compartment. If he had put it probably where the luggage was, then that could have probably gone through. We don't know. But do you see how people are now moving money? Because if you pass it through the bank may question you. The bank will have details on you. The bank will know of this transaction. So rather, why don't we, the bank, just, if you want to put money in your accounts outside without any trace, or you have big money and you want to move it, put it on the ATM card. And so this is a courier. He also gets his share for carrying everybody's load outside. This was going to Dubai. Okay? And you know the investments that people make now in Dubai. So by putting the money on your card and giving it to this foolish man who puts it in an Indomie rubber, everything is over now. So these are newer and highly sophisticated ways of moving money. If he had not been caught, look at the amount of money that would have left Nigeria. Right? And these are all, this is barely, I think, 2 weeks old or so. These are the things that are happening. I'll just run along. Next slide, please. Because people are getting hungry, and so am I. And so the way forward, FATF is suggesting that we use a risk-based approach to customer onboarding and due diligence. It's also suggesting that we do more of electronic and digital payment options, but of course with a bit more security than what is happening. And we try and document and strengthen, AML, that's anti-money laundering, and countering the financing of terrorism activities more. Because in this era of cybercrime, these are what are going on. Right now, you're at home and you're receiving money, you're receiving salary, you're paying online, you're sending money for things that probably you do not even get. And all this, and all these activities form part of the cybercrime and the cyber protection that we are trying to talk about. Next slide. We can, on the local level, tighten legislation. That's what we're trying to do at the FI. We're trying to amend our laws to make it tighter, especially in this COVID era. We're also trying to create awareness, like what we are standing here doing now. And we're also asking that you think outside the box too. I mean, don't be too rigid. Now everyone is trying various ways of doing things, multiple ways of doing things. Let's also do that. I mean, if you're an IT guy, for us, our systems, for instance, over the weekend, we know that banks don't usually send us reports like they do on a daily basis. So then over the weekend, we kind of cool down the engines at the FIC so that such attacks and all those things, when you're having a very live session like we do every day, can be reduced. These are things that we just do. Okay? So, Nigeria, for instance, let me just quickly round off with this. They have an example. They've revised their policy on the Nigerian National Communications Commission, and this will, just give me the next slide, ensure that the national identity number, every Nigerian has a national identity number, which is now linked to your SIM. Okay? So they are doing all that before the 1st of December 2020. Among others, you are not allowed to have more than 3 SIM cards now in Nigeria. A couple of Nigerian friends tried to confirm that to me, that now you do not have more than 3 SIM cards, because of what the SIM card does and the trouble. Somebody would buy 1,000 SIM cards, use it for SIM box fraud, use it for, money transfers and so on, and you'll never trace it again. Now you have a maximum of 3, and all of them are tied to you biometrically. So those are some of the things that probably we could also look at and adopt. Now, next slide. We will round off who is actually committing the crime. Now you've jumped ahead of me because I guess you're also hungry. So, and what is the impact? I guess you've had an inkling into the kind of things that the cybercrime is doing, both to the economy and to ourselves. The big question is, who is committing it? Let's have the third video and I'll shut up from there.
This project is about mapping the vast oceans of dirty money that are coursing through the world's economy, and about the failure or quite possibly refusal on the parts of banks and governments to stop it. And it's also about showing the human misery that that economy funds and why stopping it matters.
We've obtained for the first time internal U.S. Treasury documents that have been created by banks and shared with the U.S. government. In them, you find that banks are tracking money launderers, terrorism financiers.
This happened just last month. FinCEN is the American version of the FIC. And their documents leaked. And this is what people came out with after seeing all those documents that had leaked. And they came to a conclusion. They came to a finding of the impact. And that is what you are watching now. It's the FinCEN leaks. You can Google it and then you'll find it. It came up just last month. I don't know how come, whether it was hacked into, whether somebody gave the leak, whether whatever happened. But the information that we, for instance, keep so jealously came out at their end. And this is the result of what you have just started to look at. So carry on.
Narco traffickers, numerous accounts all over the world.
The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists put together a team of more than 400 reporters from around the world. Alongside these journalists, ICIJ has led and reported on this project for over a year. And what the FinCEN files reveal is the role of global banks in industrial-scale money laundering.
We're seeing all kinds of bad actors sending funds from one jurisdiction to another. But more importantly, we learned that law enforcement officials and regulatory agencies are failing to stop this dark money.
And we want to call attention to the role that the financial institutions play in facilitating that, turning a blind eye to it, and the governments as well.
It isn't the criminals themselves that launder the money. So the banks have a really important role to play because they are the system by which that money is going to be moved from their country to a nice, safe place.
This story matters because money laundering has a huge impact on the lives of regular people, and banks and governments are allowing this to happen.
And it's a massive, massive problem, and all of us ultimately pay the price for this because this money is coming from our taxes and our contributions to society, and it should be being spent on providing us with good roads and good transport and good schools and a good health service, and we need as a society to do something about it. Contributions to society.
The impact remains in your head. Who is doing it? I haven't said our banks, I haven't said our governments, I haven't said anything. You did not hear anything from me. You only watched and made your decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boache. Thank you very much for this insightful presentation. I believe the video says it all. I noted some lessons, but then I realized it's been captured in the last presentation, the last video presentation by Mr. Kofi Boache. So next on our program, we have a message by our sponsor, Technosolve Limited. Thank you.
The people we all rely on to make the world go round. They rely on Thales. In a world that is increasingly fast-moving, unpredictable, and full of opportunities, they come to us with big ambitions to make life better, to keep us safer. Combining a unique diversity of expertise, talents, and cultures, our architects design and deliver extraordinary high-technology solutions. Solutions that make tomorrow possible today. From the bottom of the oceans to the depths of space and cyberspace, we help our customers think smarter and act faster, mastering ever greater complexity and every decisive moment along the way, whatever it takes.
We would now go for our health break, and we would be having a photography session during the period. So please, you can go outside and then grab a snack, and then we'll be back in the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to this important session. Workshop on cybercrime in the era of COVID-19. COVID-19 has become a terminology. And it's not only a terminology as far as cybersecurity or the cyberspace is concerned, but it has also led to certain developments. even the way criminals go about undermining ICT platforms and the trust that we all have in the internet. Ghana has recorded a number of COVID-19 related cyber crimes. And it's good that we put this workshop together to also seek the perspective views of both industry players but also the public. The Interpol recently released a report which also highlighted a number of issues that have come up during COVID-19. One area of concern is the protection of critical information infrastructure, especially the health sector, especially knowing that COVID-19 primarily is impacting the health sector. So criminal groups have targeted that particular sector, seeking to undermine the very infrastructure that is protecting citizens all over the world. But even ordinary public have had issues. We've had issues of malicious campaigns targeting people. Indeed, there's a political season and you have certain fake news being published on social media about COVID-19 status of prominent public figures, including members of parliament, just to, of course, undermine their political campaigns. But there has also been the spread of malicious programs. Malware programs are being circulated, being distributed through spam emails with COVID-19 teams, including relief packages that citizens are being requested to apply for. We've also seen phishing emails which obviously have COVID-19 related teams, and unfortunately, unsuspected victims have fallen to this kind of attacks. There has been generally a malicious campaign and misinformation, including supposedly medications that are available to fight or cure COVID-19 related illnesses. I think it is important as a community to come together to have a discussion on what are the current trends in these areas, how do we prevent some of these malicious activities affecting our digital ecosystem, what are the various stakeholders doing, what are the perspectives from the different industry stakeholders, but also public. At the end of the day, I think the goal is to ensure the safety of a public user. And we believe that once we engage with relevant parties, including experts who are actually working in this particular space, we'll be able to understand the current dynamics and how best, most importantly, we can protect ourselves as people. I will therefore invite all of you to contribute, to share your experiences, because the National Cybersecurity Center is interested in whatever goes on. We are building a report, for example, covering the current developments within the critical information infrastructure sector with respect to COVID-19 related attacks. And we are also interested in hearing from the public the various emails, spams, and scams that are going on. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to have a better picture of the impact of COVID-19 on even cybercrime offending within our jurisdiction. I will therefore entreat you to contribute, support the center, and let all of us engage to ensure a safer digital Ghana. I thank all of you for joining us, both by being here, but also joining us through our various virtual platforms. Thank you. A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to this important session. Workshop on cybercrime in the era of COVID-19. COVID-19 has become a terminology. And it's not only a terminology as far as cybersecurity or the cyberspace is concerned, but it has also led to certain developments. Even the way criminals go about undermining ICT platforms and the trust that we all have in the internet. Ghana has recorded a number of COVID-19 related cyber crimes. And it's good that we put this workshop together to also seek the perspective views of both industry players, but also the public. The Interpol recently released a report which also highlighted a number of issues that have come up during COVID-19. One area of concern is the protection of critical information infrastructure, especially the health sector, especially knowing that COVID-19 primarily is impacting the health sector. So criminal groups have targeted that particular sector, seeking to undermine the very infrastructure that is protecting citizens all over the world. But even ordinary public have had issues. We've had issues of malicious campaigns targeting people. Indeed, there's a political season and you have certain fake news being published on social media about COVID-19 status of prominent public figures, including members of parliament, just to, of course, undermine their political campaigns. But there has also been the spread of malicious programs. Malware programs are being circulated, being distributed through spam emails with COVID-19 teams, including relief packages that citizens are being requested to apply for. We've also seen phishing emails, which obviously have COVID-19 related teams, and unfortunately, unsuspected victims have fallen to this kind of attacks. There has been generally a malicious campaign and misinformation, including supposedly medications that are available to fight or cure COVID-19 related illnesses. I think it is important as a community.
Now we have to actually understand that the times in which we are now are dangerous times with a lot of cybersecurity threats. There's a lot of ransoms, there are breaches taking place across the globe, and Ghana is no exception. And so the work of the Secretariat, we believe we need to support, because without that support, no international body will have the confidence to come and implement solutions in Ghana.
Within the last 3.5 years of our establishment as a center, we've achieved some significant milestones, including the following. The launch of the Safer Digital Ghana, which was done by the Vice President in 2018. The launch of the Point of Contact for Incident Reporting, which was launched by the Sector Minister, Honorable Eslosu Ekufo, in 2019. The development of the Computer Emergency Response ecosystem, including a setup at the NCA, but also our engagement with the Central Bank for the financial sector. The revision of Ghana's national cybersecurity policy and strategy, which has been enhanced to the level of our international standard. We've also drafted a cybersecurity bill which seeks to regulate the cybersecurity ecosystem of the country and to further consolidate our gains as far as our cybersecurity development is concerned. But most importantly, we've also signed up to 2 international conventions, which we are implementing. These are certain milestones which have also attracted international attention, including the Council of Europe, which has recognized Ghana as a hub for capacity building, ECOWAS Commission, which has then requested Ghana to lead cybersecurity in the sub-region, but also the World Bank, which has further built the confidence in investing in our digital economy. I think we haven't gotten it yet. We're still on a journey, as a matter of fact, but they are critical milestones. The main reason is the fact that we have a strong political commitment to cybersecurity. Take this from me, as advisor, I think political commitment has been one of the fundamental successes, determinant that has really brought us this far. But most importantly, I think we've also been privileged to have a champion for cybersecurity in the person of the Minister for Communications, Honorable Eslosu, who has persistently led the fights, led the charge towards improving Ghana's cybersecurity readiness. I think we're grateful for the leadership of the country, but also for the technical working group for their support in getting to where we have gotten to. Let's continue and scale up our digital protection.
The technical working group has been divided into subgroups. We have the criminal justice, defense and intelligence, stakeholder engagement sub-working group, and the SET, that's the computer emergency response team sub-working group. And all these groups have worked assiduously to see the level that we have in cybersecurity as a nation. And outside this country, Ghana is recognized as one of the leading nations when it comes to cybersecurity.
NCA is the telecommunications sector regulator in Ghana. Telecommunications is one of the critical sectors according to Ghana's national cybersecurity strategy and policy. Now, in the past, there has only been CERGH that was established in 2014, but following the efforts by government, several sectors, including telecommunications, have set up cybersecurity teams and sets, of which NCA is one.
Being a member of the National Cyber Technical Working Group has been very profitable both to my institution, to the group, and also to the National Cybersecurity Center. In this wise, there have been certain occasions where discussions has led us to get people to help my institution. And as I speak, as a part or a member of the criminal justice sector, we were able to negotiate successfully with the FBI, or let's call it legal attaché of the US Embassy, and YOCO, the Ghana Police Service, were equipped with tools to forensically examine digital devices. And as I speak, they have given us computers, they have given us tools, they have also established a lab for us. If it has not been because of the national cybersecurity collaboration, we wouldn't have come this far.
Our contribution is very significant in the sense that when you look at the different areas that the critical national infrastructure falls in, everyone and every entity for that matter uses personal data for different purposes. For collecting data on travelers or employees or citizens one way or the other, people who are doing the right thing, people who are malicious and trying to do the wrong things. All these categories of individuals have rights under the Data Protection Act to be protected.
The mandate for the FIC and the collaboration between the National Cybersecurity Office is one of very deep collaboration, because we at the FIC see cybersecurity and cybercrime as one of the predicate offenses of money laundering and terrorist financing.
The National Communications Authority has supported the National Cybersecurity Center's efforts, which led to the accession of the Budapest Convention by Ghana.
From GCNet's perspective, we've come in as a public-private partner. We've partnered with the National Cybersecurity Secretariat. First, we sponsored the program because we believe that what the Secretariat is doing actually bodes well for the nation. Now, we have to actually understand that the times in which we are now are dangerous times with a lot of cybersecurity threats. There's a lot of ransoms, there are breaches taking place across the globe, and Ghana is no exception. And so the work of the Secretariat, we believe we need to support, because without that support, no international body will have the confidence to come and implement solutions in Ghana.
Within the last 3.5
Show
Hlebe zami zimamele Lomo wami uthetha naye kuye yedwa Kudala ngibona ngiphila kanje Ngibona ngiphila kanje Kungenxa yothando lwakhe Mehlo wami apholiwe Hlebe zami zimamele Lomo wami uthetha naye kuye yedwa Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo lilo 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 Namlilo lilo 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 Namlilo lilo 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 Namlilo lilo lilo whoa Higher Ooh Namlilo Thando lwakho talimili ngisukumishosha lentando yakho abangaboni sebeyobona mina ngeke ngikwazi ukuvakazela omunye umuntu kodwa thando lwakho mina ngizotshela abane thando lwakho talimili ngisukumishosha lentando yakho abangaboni sebeyobona mina ngeke ngikwazi ukuvakazela omunye umuntu kodwa thando lwakho mina ngizotshela abane nangulo mlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo lilo whoa higher umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo lilo 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 Namlilo lilo 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 Namlilo lilo 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 Hailo mlilo Dala ngibona ngiphila kanje Ngibona ngiphila kanje Kungenxa yothando lwakhe Mehlo wami apholiwe Hlebe zami zimamele Lomo wami uthetha naye kuye yedwa Kudala ngibona ngiphila kanje Ngibona ngiphila kanje Kungenxa yothando lwakhe Mehlo wami apholiwe Hlebe zami zimamele Lomo wami uthetha naye kuye yedwa Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo Wavutha umlilo namalangabe Wavutha umlilo ngisukumishosha lentando yakho abangaboni sebeyobona mina ngeke ngikwazi ukuvakazela omunye umuntu kodwa ithando lakho mina ngizotshela bane ithando lwakho talimile ngisukumishosha lentando yakho abangaboni sebeyobona mina ngeke ngikwazi ukuvakazela omunye umuntu kodwa ithando lakho mina ngizotshela bane nangulo mlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo lilo wo haya avutha umlilo nangulo mlilo avutha umlilo namalangabe avutha umlilo nangulo mlilo wavutha umlilo namalangabe wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo wavutha umlilo namalangabe wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 wavutha umlilo namalangabe wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo wavutha umlilo namalangabe wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo wavutha umlilo namalangabe wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo wavutha umlilo namalangabe wavutha umlilo wavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo 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 namlilo lilo lilo wo haya talimile ngisukumishosha lentando yakho abangaboni sebeyobona mina ngeke ngikwazi ukuvakazela omunye umuntu kodwa ithando lakho mina ngizotshela bane ithando lwakho talimile ngisukumishosha lentando intando yakho abangaboni sebeyobona mina ngeke ngikwazi ukufakazela omunye umuntu kodwa ithando lakho mina ngizotshela abane nangulo mlilo lilo 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 nomlilo lilo 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 nomlilo lilo 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 nomlilo lilo lilo wo haya somlilo nangulo mlilo bavutha umlilo namalangabe bavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo bavutha umlilo namalangabe bavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo bavutha umlilo namalangabe bavutha umlilo nangulo mlilo lilo lilo lilo
Center Ghana, Facebook Cybersecurity Ghana, www.ncsamtv.live, and we're also streaming on CTTV, graphic, yen.com.gh, home-based TV. Okay, so we are going to move on to our next activity on the program. We are going to have a panel discussion on the theme, Cybercrime Schemes in the Era of COVID-19 and the era of COVID-19 and the way forward. Cybercriminals are developing and boosting their attacks at an alarming pace, exploiting the fear and uncertainty caused by the unstable social and economic situation. So the NCSC has put together this team of experts to do justice to our topic for the day. This session will be moderated by Mr. Osei Bonsu Dixon, Chief Legal Advisor and SGI National Coordinator, National Security Council Secretariat. Please let's clap for him. You're welcome, sir. So please, Mr. Osei Dixon would introduce the rest of the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Jemima, and then welcome everybody here to this special auditorium. Now, as you've been told, our panel discussion today will focus on the nexus between criminal activity in cyberspace and also the law. And so what I will be doing will be to run our panelists, our distinguished panelists that we have. In fact, there are some that will be joining us online, and then there are some that you would see in person, physically here. So we will be having a good time. She's already made introductions about who I am, so that is okay. And now what I want to do is to quickly introduce members of the panel that I have here. There is one member of panel who is supposed to be here, but unfortunately cannot be here. But we will do business as appropriate. Now I have first on my immediate right, Mr. Eric Amwa Thompson. Mr. Thompson is an information security, data analytics, and privacy professional experience in implementing models, patterns, and trends to identify cyber fraud and provide support for cyber security awareness and industry experience, and that is also backed with enough certification. If I were to run you through the certification, I'm sure Jesus Christ would not even come until we finish. But I also have immediately after Mr. Thompson or Eric, Mrs. Audrey Mreku. Now, Mrs. Audrey Mreku is a cyber security specialist with 19 years working experience. She has worked for the Central Bank of Switzerland, has worked for the US Embassy, Airtel, Tigo, among others, and is now at the National Cyber Security Center, where she is a computer emergency response team lead. She's a member also of the international professional bodies in the nature of ISC Squared, ISACA, EC Council, and a number of them. We also will be joined, like I said, online by another professional. And here I'm referring to Mr. Anand Ramaswamy. Mr. Ramaswamy is an assistant U.S. attorney, currently serving at the U.S. Department of Justice, International Computer Hacking and Intellectual Property, as international property advisor for Sub-Saharan Africa. He is an experienced prosecutor of cyber crimes across international jurisdictions, so in areas that require international cooperation as well as international collaboration. So ladies and gentlemen, we have with us a number of individuals who can do justice to the topic. The fourth person, actually, we should have had him here, was actually ACP Dr. Gustav Jansen. Unfortunately, he's on a different assignment and cannot be here on this occasion. So ladies and gentlemen, you have your panel here. I will go straight and ask our panelists a number of questions. But I would want to first, I will skip Eric and then go straight to Audrey. And want Audrey to acquaint us with the traditional cybercrime schemes that are currently in currency in Ghana here. And so Audrey, if you can take that for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dixon. Thank you very much, Mr. Dixon. Thank you. Thank you. Cybercrime, cybersecurity points of contacts for incident reporting. We have noticed that the traditional crimes range from online bullying, website defacements, online fraud, impersonation, child abuse, online child abuse, amongst others.
And then from your point of view, Eric, I mean, is there any other variations that we're seeing among the traditional crimes that we have for cyber?
Okay, so these are all going on. We just have to emphasize the one that is rising, and that is the phishing aspect. In this era of coronavirus, people what they are doing is to lure people to click on a certain link or open an attachment that will require their credentials or place some malicious software on their computer or phone to collect some data. So this is really going on. Aside what we mentioned, we have phishing going on, and if you don't take care, you will be a victim. And once you're a victim, they will use your credentials to do a lot of things, and that's the impersonation that you're also talking about. So in the era of coronavirus, let's be careful of the phishing, the email you receive, the text message, not every link you need to click. Yeah, so in the course of the discussion, I will just let you know some of the websites you can go to actually access a particular web address, whether it is legit or not. So.
But the question of phishing, so for most people, they will be asking themselves, but what is phishing? So if you can elaborate on that aspect for us.
Okay, so for the benefit of all, I'm speaking to different categories of audience, so let me try to spell the phishing so that you don't think like it's a C phishing. We are just, it's PHISHING. So it's not FISH code, just to be clear. So this is a kind of attack where the criminals will send an email or a text message that let's take that let's look at the era of the coronavirus. They can send you a message and tell you that click the attach to know the guideline you need to follow in order to protect yourself from the virus. Okay, so you need to be careful of the address from which this message is coming from. The moment you click, sometimes they will ask for your credentials. If it is an email, you will see even Outlook. You can see the interface Outlook there. Okay, so if you don't take care, you will enter your username and your password. At the moment you do that, your credentials is sent to their server, and once they get hold of it, they can access your email. Yeah, so this is phishing. So phishing can take the form of email or text message or even a call in order for you to follow certain steps to be lured into a certain site for your information to be collected.
Okay, I thank you for that clarity. I'm wondering if Mr. Ramaswamy is actually online as we speak. And if he's online, I'd want him to join this conversation and update us about the very first issue that we are interested in, traditional cyber crime schemes. Mr. Ramaswamy, I think I can see him.
Crime schemes.
Welcome.
Mr. Ramaswamy, I think I can see him. Crime schemes.
Welcome.
Mr. Ramaswamy, I think Yes.
I can see him.
Crime schemes.
Welcome.
Mr. Ramaswamy, I think I can see him.
I'm getting an echo. Do you hear that also? I'm getting an echo. Do you hear that also? Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I appreciate the opportunity. What we're seeing is, in general, three types of cybercrime related to COVID. So the first is, as was mentioned, phishing schemes or business email compromise schemes, where the subject line would be COVID related. The second would be websites or attempts to sell cures and mitigation for COVID. And the third, we're just now seeing, now that governments are making funds available to victims, is identity theft in order to get access to the funds from government.
Okay. 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 Can you hear me? Good. We're having a little. Can you hear me? Good. We're having a little bit of feedback with the transmissions. But there's one aspect, I mean, of the general discussions that I want to also capture, which is what is happening globally and or maybe regionally at this point. And I'd want maybe any of our panelists who is touched by the spirit actually to look at that. What are we seeing at an international level or at a regional level here in Africa?
What the intelligence we are picking from the region and internationally is not different from what Ghana is experiencing. Only the difference is that some of the scams are customized for Ghana. By doing so, internationally they'll be using credit cards and other means to defraud people. But in Ghana, they will definitely use our e-payment systems, which are only locally based. So the cyber criminals are picking up intelligence from internal partners. Well, I'm sure they call themselves internal partners. Then they customize it for Ghana and West Africa region.
Mr. Ramaswamy, I'm constrained to come back to you. So this is a picture that Audrey paints here. I mean, I wonder whether maybe from where you sit across the table or across the aisle, whether it is any different internationally.
Okay. Internationally, what we're seeing, I think, the effect is more on business email compromise and malware schemes that distribute spam emails. And we see it worldwide. We see it targeted to specific countries. For instance, in a campaign recently in Japan, where the emails, we know the country of origin, but they're written in Japanese and very good Japanese in order to gain the response. And it is simply that because it's the topic of the day, all of these email schemes rely on having a topic that is something you'd want.
I don't know whether Eric wants to make some contribution.
Okay, just to add to my colleague panelist, you know, fear or panic is a fruitful soil for the scams. So once the cyber criminals get to know that there is fear, there is panic, everybody want to know what is going on. Everybody want to know the hotspots of coronavirus. Everyone want to know whether there is a vaccine for the virus. So the curiosity for the information and the fear will provide opportunity for the cyber criminals. So I did a little research, and one thing I realized was there was a situation, or there was this scam known as business email scam. Okay, what happened was that they were able to spoof the email address of a corporate body, and they send it to all their customers. They are telling their customers that due to the coronavirus pandemic, we are changing our bank account, and for that matter, if you want to pay us, kindly pay us to this bank account. Okay, so it was a wrong address. You know, IP spoofing, email spoofing is where there's impersonation here. They pretend as if they are the genuine company that you are working with. Okay, so at the end of the day, customers end up paying their money to that bank account, which was a wrong account. Okay, so this is basically what is happening. The fear is giving opportunity for cyber criminals to take advantage of.
Just to add on to that, what we are also seeing in Ghana is recruitment scams. How these happen is high-profile individuals are being impersonated on our social media platforms. And the cyber criminals are offering jobs to young people out there, and they're offering business opportunities. And we are also seeing online shopping scams, whereby companies are buying, or individual business people, women in Makola, where they contact their suppliers overseas, and they receive a whole consignment of masks without the straps, or they receive fake medication. Sometimes they even receive sanitizers that are not up to standard. And when they contact their counterparts back where they bought the goods from, they tell them that you have to ship them back for us to replace them. And our businesses, local business persons, then they have to foot the bill in terms of shipping the equipment back. And this is a huge loss in terms of cedis and dollars which are being spent in procuring this equipment. We're also seeing the cloning of business websites, including government websites, where cyber criminals, they copy exactly how the government website is like, then they register these websites internationally. And these websites are a replica of what is available locally. Color, board of directors. One thing that they managed to change is there's a slight change in the email addressing, because the domain is the same. So there's a slight change in the email address. So if you have seen maybe an email address that is associated with the Cybersecurity Center, they will add a 1 instead of the I there. And if you are not careful enough, you are going to do business, you are going to supply, and you're not going to get paid. And this is happening locally and internationally. Thank you.
So that is a very dire picture that we have of the country. I mean, in terms of the level of cyber criminality which is actually going on. But I wonder if you could give us a hunch as to some of the statistics, so that, I mean, most of our listeners can relate to it. You are the shrine, you, the Cybersecurity Center. You have, I'm sure, figures about what is going on currently. If you can share some with us, that should be good.
The figures that I have are already, there are figures of people contacting the National Cybersecurity Center who are already compromised. So from beginning of January to August, the National Cybersecurity Center have received incidents, about 11,545 incidents. And 52% of these incidents make up of online fraud. Then we also seen 15% of the publication of non-consensual intimate images, which the cyber criminals tend to extort money from their victims. And we're also seeing online impersonation, which makes up 9%. All these lead to the mission behind all this is online fraud. So if there's an impersonation, the end goal is to defraud somebody. We're also seeing disinformation and misinformation. I'm sure some of you have noticed earlier, before the lockdown and during the lockdown, that images were being circulated where certain countries, it was said that those who were going outside the country release lions to make sure that people stay indoors. Such information is misleading. And it is illegal for such information. If you are producing that information, that is disinformation, and you sharing that information across our WhatsApp messages, that's misinformation, it is actually an illegal offense in Ghana. We're also seeing quite a number of children calling the National Cybersecurity Center and their parents seeking advice on how to keep their children safe online. Our children have been offered these devices that are online and they're alone at home, doing online schooling, and some of them are just online at home alone with their guidance, who are not even technology savvy. So some of them are reaching out to us. They want to know, what course can I do in the meantime? We're seeing parents reaching out to the National Cybersecurity Center. I've given my child this device. How do I make sure that she stays safe online? She doesn't go to sites that I'm not comfortable with. We advise them, sit down with the child. There's no use spying on the child what he's doing. Sit down with the child, talk to the child on how they can stay safe online. Try and have curfew the time they spend online. The devices that they use, make sure that they're authorized devices. Make sure that there's antivirus on the devices, because they are, unfortunately for them, they have not been introduced, unlike some of us, where in our work areas there's awareness creation. For them, they've just been thrown into this dark world where they have to fend for themselves. Unlike in the traditional ways where we were told, don't go out late at night, don't meet up with strangers, don't eat food from outside. Our children are thrown out there, they're being groomed by people we don't know. You can't even tell, they can't even tell that the person on the other end is a 52-year-old or is a 17-year-old boy like him. So all this is what is happening in our space. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I want to actually quickly go to Mr. Ramaswamy. Now, there's another aspect of our discussion that I want to quickly loop in, which has to do with the international dimensions of it, particularly international law. So Ghana, for example, is signatory to a number of international instruments, both in Africa here and around the world. I think the biggest is Budapest. Now, what I want to find out from you is how relevant some of these existing conventions are in the wake of COVID itself, since COVID has also brought, like we've seen from all of you, a lot of a plethora of problems in the cyber domain. So, Mr. Ramaswamy, that's my question. I mean, how the relevance of these international instruments to the COVID situation or the cybercrime situation within the COVID era.
More recently so, I believe took effect just last year for Ghana. But I'll say this, that treaty enabled specifically Article 26. It has some very good provisions about sharing information between investigators in other countries, in different countries. That's a very helpful provision. But while it only enabled that sharing, what we have only recently seen, in my experience, is the actual sharing between countries in investigations. Because it is relatively new, I know the treaty's been in existence for some time, but the actual sharing between investigators is novel. I have a matter now involving several European countries in which we are accomplishing sharing through Article 26 of the Budapest Convention. That matter involves, it originated before coronavirus, but now, as Eric mentioned earlier, coronavirus and the fear of it is the basis of many of these emails. It now encompasses coronavirus. But that sharing allows our investigators in real time across nations to share information. But I think one of the hurdles has been, for most of us, it's simply not been done before. So we, like any new law, we're making our initial steps into it. And I will say, I have another case, for instance, a very recent case of business email compromise, and only last week discovered that the main suspect is a resident of Ghana. That's the type of Article 26 Budapest Convention sharing if we identified an investigator in your country. We could share information and jointly investigate. That's something I might discuss with you. Yeah, well, I'll have the investigator discuss with you later, but I think it's an avenue that's available, but most people simply haven't taken yet.
Apart from Budapest, we also have the Malabo Convention that was actually, it came into adoption in the year 2014. And I'm particularly interested in knowing the African states and the responses. Now here we are in Africa, and Africa has also been deeply impacted by coronavirus. I want to find from your perspective, before we move to our panelists here, how Malabo has been contributory to helping us solve problems with cybercrime. So if you, Mr. Ramaswamy, if you can add your thoughts about the Malabo Convention.
And so that we can see how the article, the treaty actually works. The part that caught my attention was the harmonization provision, where the different nations, the goal is the harmonization of law. So I think that's a very important provision of making sure there's no conflicting provisions and recognizing that countries may have the opportunity to each prosecute or investigate the same actors, because so much of this is transnational in nature.
Thank you so much. And so with that, before I come to issues about the investigations and prosecutions that are occurring here in Ghana, I want to actually find out from you, Audrey. I mean, I think last year, like Mr. Ramaswamy was talking about, we actually ratified the Budapest Convention. I mean, since we have done it, I mean, what have been the follow-up actions? Anything you can share?
Yes, there's been quite a number of events through the Ministry of Communications. We've had workshops with our international partners where we have trained judges on how to action these cases when they are brought to them. We've had sensitization workshops in countrywide, and we've also had workshops with our MNOs, our mobile network operators, because For us to go online, they are the ones that provide the conduit for us to go online. If there's an investigation and they discover that the individual is in Ghana, it is IP address that to Ghana used. It is through the IP addresses that have been allocated by the telcos that they are able to identify that this particular individual is in Ghana. So we've had a number of aligned on how we action requests coming from the Budapest, our Budapest Convention partners.
And so on a scale of 0 to 10, I mean, where would you rate Ghanaian efforts, government of Ghana's efforts? Where would you put our own efforts as a government or as a country?
I would say it's 6. Why? Because the groundwork has been done, the policies have been drafted, and the sensitization is ongoing. Yeah, it's 6. It's 6.
Okay. And for you, Eric, when countries like Ghana or governments such as Ghana have, or the government of Ghana have ratified these conventions, what has been its impact on the private sector? How have private sector actors dovetailed into it?
Okay, so basically, some of these policies is to, they are to guide the private sector to come up with a framework that will guide their cyberspace. Now, when the private sector are not embracing the cybersecurity principles, that is where there is a gap. Now, the policy is meant to ensure that the private sector is directed to go certain way to protect the customers. So when you look at the financial institution, for instance, where Bank of Ghana have to come out with the cybersecurity directive, it's not like the private sectors are not aware there's the need for cybersecurity measures to be implemented in the private sector. Just because there is not a directive, there was no directive or a law or policy to enforce or to make them implement such measures. They were not taking it as such. So such policies are good. They help direct the private sectors to take certain measures to protect their systems and also protect the customers' information they keep.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned financial sectors, the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana, if my memory serves me right, has come out with cybersecurity policies that banks within the private sector as well as the public sector are to take. So, when you say that we are not pushing hard enough or fast enough, I really don't get you. Can you expatiate on what you're saying?
Okay, so I limited it to the financial institution. So basically, we need to have, we need to take it in a holistic manner, in a way that will cut across other private sectors. So it's not only about financial sector. The financial sector has been deepened. The measures has been deepened because of probably the money involved. When you look at financial sector, we have people saving their money there. So people are more careful about the money. And in Ghana here, we are more conscious about the money than even data. So I think that is actually the trend now. So I believe that it should really be extended to the other private sectors, and they also have to buy into it to ensure that customer data are really protected. It's very, very important.
Okay, I'll cross over to Mr. Ramaswamy. Now, I want to know the nature of prosecutory efforts that are going on, for example, in the United States. And then I'll come to Ghana and see how our investigations and prosecutions of cybercrime is actually ongoing. So just give us a picture of how the U.S. is addressing prosecution matters on cybercrime. Well, I've been talking with a number of our panelists here. I mean, my last question was to Mr. Ramaswamy, and it was directed at him because he has spent a big deal of his life on cybercrime prosecution. Now, if it's been efficacious, if it's been very effective, why do we still have cybercrime on the ascendancy? Why hasn't prosecution been deterrent enough? So, Mr. Ramaswamy, I'd want you to address that aspect because I'm not too sure it sits well with many people. I mean, if it is effective, why is it rising?
The process that we and understand when we have a prosecution, our documents, our indictments, and bad actors see these and they learn from our investigative techniques. So it's an ongoing process. I don't think that will ever stop.
Wow, I see. So it's an ongoing process. The criminal actors are themselves
an ongoing
process from the actions that are being done to counteract their own activities. But I will now come in situ and come squarely to the jurisdiction. And then I'll direct my arrows now at the lady who sits at the shrine of our national cybersecurity efforts. That is Audrey. Audrey, describe the kinds of investigations that are going on here in this country, and let's have a feel of it, so that we can now delve into the prosecutions of these crimes and how effective they have been.
Okay. I'll start off by saying that it is more cultural. As Ghanaians, we need to first learn to report these incidents because the perpetrators are with us in our homes. If we don't report what we are seeing or what we are suspecting, we are actually propagating these fraud schemes. 2, if these incidents are reported and we get to learn more about the modus operandi of these cyber criminals, we are able to put together material to do awareness training. Also, we have since realized that there's a skills gap in terms of technology and in terms of professionals in the industry and with our local law enforcement. So we need to scale up as a country, educate the nation, educate our law enforcement agencies and the private sector as well. In terms of investigations, we also need to collaborate, more collaboration between the industry players, government, public, and the children. Why? Because if there's evidence which can be easily concealed, then the investigation is dead. We need to do awareness creation for our parents, the children as well. There's one incident which was reported in January at the National Cybersecurity Center, which is now currently in our courts, where one individual was hosting material, sexually explicit material of our children. What what happened between the time the little girl reported the incident and the actual time that the perpetrator was caught was a lot. We had to look at where the server is hosted, where the domain is, collaborate with the partners. Unfortunately for us, it was outside the country. So it's not like we could easily walk to one of the telcos and say, who owns this domain? And fortunately for us in Ghana, when you register a domain, there's so much information that they gather from you, whereby we can easily go to the register of domains and we get to know exactly who is behind that domain. But if it is outside, out there, you can easily register a domain just by paying and giving them your name and email address, and that is it. So when you are investigating an offense like such as that one, you have to collaborate with external partners where even the sensitivity of the case, it might not be a high priority for them, but it is high priority for us in Ghana. So there are quite a number of gaps which we need to close as a country.
I see. But before we get to issues about gaps, let me just first ask you. So somebody's reported, or somebody has found that his picture is circulating online and the wrong attribution is being made to him. He hasn't done something, but he's been accused of having done the thing, let's say a sexual act with another person, the image has been doctored, and it is circulating around. What are the remedies open to such a person? Who should that person report to? Who are the kinds of investigators that are called into issue? Can you give us a feeling of this?
Definitely the National Cybersecurity Center, through our incident reporting points of contacts, where you can call us via 292. We have a short code, 292. You can also send us a text message onto 292. You can report using reports at cybersecurity.gov.gh. We also have a mobile app for those who are technology savvy. You can download the mobile app, which is NCSC Ghana, from the Play Store or Google Store, where you can interact with us, have receive advisories and guidances, and also report events, because we encourage that you don't only come to the National Cybersecurity Center when there's an incident. Have a relationship where you report an event that would lead to an incident so that it can easily be capped before it becomes an incident. Also, on that note, once you report to the National Cybersecurity Center, we are fortunate enough that we have developed a very strong ecosystem with the Bank of Ghana. The crime borders around financial issues. We have strong relationships with the telcos through our National Communication Authority. We also have an in-house law enforcement agent from the CID department who works with us. So as soon as we receive these incidents, we triage them, and if there's criminality in the case is forwarded to law enforcement immediately.
Okay, so thank you so much. Now, it has been indicated to me that we have barely about 15 minutes. So I'll ask one question to Eric, and then I will open the floor so that we can receive questions from our distinguished audience here in this auditorium. So, to Eric, I want to find out, we've been talking about prosecution, investigations, and things like that. A while ago, before we entered this auditorium, I was asking him, I put it to him that a number of people complain about the nature of cyber security education in Ghana in particular. And he shared some thoughts with me. I want him to actually highlight some of the problems or issues with cybersecurity education in contemporary times.
All right, thank you so much. This is one of the great questions I'll always be looking for. See, our educational system, to me, when you compare with the developed country, you can see that there is a gap in terms of the cybersecurity element in our curriculum. Yes, we do have ICT, we do have, computer courses in the various schools, that secondary schools, even primary schools, they are doing. But when you look at the primary schools, or you look at the, the JHS or the SHS, these are the young ones that are most vulnerable to this cyber attack. Yes, you teach them how to use these IT systems and the computer, but there is element of security inside the ICT, but it doesn't stand out. You know, cybersecurity is very dynamic. It is not static like the various courses that we study. So we should have a unique practical concept within our educational system that we will teach cybersecurity and also incorporate the new update or the trend of cyber criminals. So when we're able to do that, it helps the children to be abreast of the new techniques that the cyber criminals are using. Let me take, for instance, even this mobile money fraud that is ongoing. You realize that these criminals are not using one technique. Okay, if they are using this technique and there is an announcement that, awareness that the fraudsters are doing this and this and this, the next day you realize they change the technique. Yes, so we need to have a way of keeping abreast with the techniques which are being used by these cyber criminals to help create awareness and educate our children on how to protect themselves from this cyber criminals.
So we need to do that. But with that, I also need to go to Mr. Ramaswamy to collect his thoughts about what we can do to ensure that cybersecurity education is up there. If you can, in a jiffy, give us your own thoughts.
Or a corporation, they know that if that becomes public knowledge, it will affect their stock price and they will have negative consequences. So when we do business outreach, make it clear that they can come to us confidentially and tell us what happened, and we can tell them what we can do before we do it and allow them to make the decision about what happens next.
Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, first, we've come full circle with the presentations that have been made here. But first, I want you to know that you can also contribute by asking questions. If you have any questions, you can motion with your hand. I will call you. Be snappy with your question. And if it's directed at a particular one of all our panelists, let me know. If it's at one of them, please let me know. The floor is now open. General questions from you. I take it that a lot of you seem to be, you have been either well-fed, overfed, or perhaps even underfed. I mean, that is the reason why you are so quiet this morning. But I can see, do I see a hand at the back? Is there any question for any of the panelists here? Okay, so in the front row. And please, you mention your name to us, and then you give us your question straightforward.
Hi, my name is Frank Tete from PwC Ghana. PwC Ghana.
Thank you.
My question is about, in terms of the financial sector, the banks have a directive. I just want to understand the policy direction towards how other institutions, aside the banks, so insurance, the securities and exchanges, or other government institutions, what is the directive? What are they supposed to, what guidelines, what are they supposed to follow in terms of information security?
Okay, so Frank's question is generally policy direction to the various stakeholders. I would say, you say banking, insurance, and the like. You understand? Health sector and all those, security sector and all those things. What is it to them? I know that at least maybe, well, before maybe our panelists take a bite at that, I know that there have been general directives coming also from, for example, Ministry of Communication through a cybersecurity center to look at the setting up of sets, industry sets, for example, within the various industries. And Bank of Ghana, for example, has been very much frontal about that. I'm not too sure about the insurance that you mentioned. I mean, that is something for us to investigate, find out, and be sure. But let me go straight to our panelists. Maybe they might have some thoughts. Audrey, you want to start?
There's a lot that's happening within the government space. One of which is the cybersecurity bill, which is before cabinet, which has a lot of direction on your question that you just asked. And also, apart from the cybersecurity bill, we also have the critical information infrastructure framework, which has been put together, which will be launched once it has been approved by cabinet and parliament, of course, which gives direction in terms of our critical information industry owners on how they are to protect our information that is information infrastructure owned by them.
Thank you very much. Any question? Okay.
Hello. Okay, my name is Michael Tonyeviaji from Office of Head of Civil Service. My question has to do with our resource person we had in the morning. He made mention that our neighbors, Nigeria, the citizenry, you don't have to have more than 3 SIM cards. I want to know about Ghana. Are we also coming out with a policy in that directive that you also cannot have more than a number of SIM cards? Thank you.
I'm not too sure. I mean, this has been a different segment with a different type of panel that has been assembled here. I'm not sure whether maybe our panelists are disposed to that type of information. Any of you is clearly aware of what he's talking about, what Michael is talking about?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge.
Yeah.
And what about Eric?
I think there is a limit, and this limit has been implemented in the various telcos. Yeah, so you might not see public, but NCA, which regulates the various telcos, has communicated the framework within which you should place the limit. So definitely, when you see the limit, the telcos will not allow you to register a certain number of SIM cards.
Okay. Yes, I can see 2 hands at the back. I'm minded to pick, yes, the very first person, yes, in the front row, yes.
My name is Raphael.
Raphael, yes, let's go to Raphael.
So I want to ask, as we all know, cybercrime has come to stay with us. What are they doing to be able to help their basic school, or maybe from basic to secondary, our educational system, to give us some basic knowledge of how we can protect ourselves, you know, as...
Okay, so Raphael's point is that cybercrime has become normative. It has come to stay in our midst. What are we doing to protect, for example, the children, the students, and all those things? Specifically, what are some of the things that we are concretely doing? What are we doing as a country?
Okay, I think already the National Cybersecurity Center had already taken the initiative to visit the various secondary schools. I've been involved in the outreach program since last 2 years. We visited some secondary schools. So basically, they are creating the awareness through that activities. I believe that with time, as I just mentioned earlier, we should look at our education system, the curriculum. We should see how best we can have as part of it the cybersecurity concept in a way that we can give them the basic, the things they need to know. Because seriously speaking, as I said, cybersecurity is dynamic. Things get changed. I mean, if you teach the child this way, and the cyber criminals changing their modus operandi, they will definitely, be be caught in the net. So we need to be able to give update on the current landscape of the threat that we are facing. And when it's embedded in this particular or in our education system, it will be part of their daily life. And we should teach them how to fish. That's the key thing now. When you teach a child how to fish, he will always be able to detect threat by himself. So when I asked a question earlier on in the beginning, I asked if we put a web address, if you see a web address, or maybe through your WhatsApp information, social media platform, how will you be able to know that this is a malicious address? This shouldn't be something really confined with the expert alone, or it's supposed to be only the professional that's supposed to know. All of us need to know. How will I detect that this link I'm clicking is malicious? So this is where I think we should do more in teaching the people how to fish, so they are able to detect threat and suspicious activities by themselves.
Okay, so threat detection, he's talked about outreach programs. He has also highlighted the issue of curriculum review. But it tells me that some of these things are actually ongoing. Let me go to Audrey. Maybe Audrey want to augment. You want to augment it?
My colleague has said it all.
He said it all, okay. So, well, there are two other persons that are, yes.
My name is Albert.
Albert, yes.
Okay, so my question is, the panelists have thrown more light on the various schemes, but I didn't hear anything about digital currencies, because we know that right now the world is evolving, and some parts of Africa, even Kenya, are given policies to handle digital currencies and everything, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we know it's just a matter of time that get to gain grounds in Ghana as well. So I want to know what the cybersecurity division is also, what provisions they are making to accommodate that. And also if Mr. Ramaswamy could also throw more light on how they are handling such issues in US.
Handling what issues?
Digital currencies.
Okay.
Cybercrime or
related to digital currencies. Okay, so I'll first move internally to Audrey if we're doing something here that she's aware of, and then I will parachute myself to Ramaswamy.
The National Cybersecurity Center under the Ministry of Communication has a technical working group which is made up of quite a number of bodies from law enforcement, Bank of Ghana, whereby they sit and discuss on such matters. It has been discussed in quite a number of their engagements, and certain policies are being put in place. It might not single out Bitcoin or online currencies per se, but they are being looked at in generalized as e-payment schemes or e-payment modes of e-payments. So there are policies already that are existing that govern e-payments in the country, and they're being updated as and when we pick up intelligence on what's happening internationally. It is being handled.
Okay, so I think that gives us some picture or photograph as to what is happening within the nation. Please, let me go to, how do you call it, Ramaswamy, and then see what the United States is doing in the area of like what you digital currency, e-coins and stuff like that, Bitcoin and all those things. Mr. Ramaswamy. Ramaswamy.
You can find the people who benefit from these. But I want to go back to the original question, I think, from Orbit about the use of mobile technology and mobile payments. That's something somewhat unique to the continent. The growth of mobile technology and mobile payments is exponential in Africa, and it's only going to get larger with the advent of 5G networks. And what I would expect to see is a sort of consolidation of or movement to larger payment providers. And that's going to be its own source eventually of criminal activity, just like we see in the credit card skimming and credit card fraud area. That if there's a source of money there, there's going to be people trying to figure out how to illegitimately get access to it.
I think there's a hand close by. I have just about like 2 more people, and then perhaps we will be wrapping up. So, yes.
My name is Abdullah.
Abdullah. I'm going to Abdullah now, please.
And this one is directed to Madam Audrey.
Okay.
Please, you mentioned an instance where a website was posting illicit pictures of a young lady, and it took some time to track the person down because the domain was bought outside of the country. I'd like to know, are there steps being taken to speed up the process so that such criminals are apprehended more easily and faster than it took you to get the particular
So you are looking at, how do you call it, I mean, the processes within the Cyber Secretariat itself in terms of apprehension, detection of crime and things like that. Yes.
Yes, the government of Ghana has invested so much in fighting cybercrime and cyber security incidents. Currently, we are even expecting quite a number of our infrastructure to be brought in, workshops which will be conducted between ourselves and the law enforcement, and we are investing a lot on awareness creation. Because if there was no awareness creation, that little girl wouldn't have even reported to the National Cybersecurity Center. So if we sensitize the public, we educate our professionals, and we work collaboratively, locally and internationally. Government, I can assure you the government has put in so much into that, towards that effort, and we'll be seeing results. We are actually even seeing results as it is right now.
Okay, so do I have any other? And that will be the very last one. I have 2 hands up. I'm tempted to avoid one, but I will take all 2. So I'll take you, and I take, but let me start with my friend at the back. Yes. Yes.
Okay. My name is Malik. From what Madam Audrey said, government is investing too much, so much into fighting cybercrime. I want to understand what government is doing in terms of the psychological understanding of those who also commit such crimes. In my experience, I've talked to some people. It's not that they don't know what they are doing is wrong, but they keep thinking it's a way of being smart. Once upon a time, somebody told me, no, they are not stealing the white. They are rather taking back what the white took from their great-grandfather. You understand? So I would like to understand, moving forward, what the government is going to do to also let people understand what they are doing is not just being smart, but it's a crime.
Okay, so I will take that in reservation. Audrey will answer it, but I will quickly go to the gentleman in front.
My name is Nee, and I'd like to know if someone would like to start a career in cybersecurity, what's the way forward there?
What is the way forward?
Yes.
Now we've been talking problems and issues. Now we are attacking the issue frontally. Opportunities. We should be also frontally looking at opportunities in the post-COVID era. And so I think that would be a general thing to all of us here. And I will first go to Audrey to answer the question that had been posed. So,
okay, so this is what happens. Soon as we receive an incident and it borders around criminal, it has an element of criminality in it. I made mention that we work hand in hand with the CID, Ghana Police Department, CID department in the Ghana Police. So there are already structures in place whereby the perpetrators are also cautioned and they are counseled. I know for sure because I know where there's an incident where a minor was engaged in child sexual abusive material, where he was actually pushing that material in other platforms, social media platforms. When the child was, when one little girl reported that this is what's happening in our church platform, we made a phone call through the police CID department. The child was brought in, and it was talked to, and he was counseled, and he was alerted that when you distribute such material, it is illegal in the country. So I know for sure that even for cyber criminals and cyber offenders, there is a department already existing within the police where they actually sit down and they counsel perpetrators.
Okay, thank you so much. And so that would quickly let us now set ourselves ready to answer the very last question. The last question has to do with how do we up our skills in the area of cyber. I want to also add to it the issue of what opportunities are available to many, many countless millions of young people in this country. So first, I will start with Eric. I'll go to Audrey. I'll move to Anand. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me start by mentioning this professional body that we all know. I believe we've all have heard of ICA or ECCA. Good. They are professional bodies who train the members in accounting and finance and stuff. Okay, so basically, someone asks, how do you start a career in cybersecurity? Most of the times, when you come to the accounting field, people always have the mentality that ICA is only those who did accounting in school that can be a chartered accountant. But we see that the trend is changing. Someone will do science in in the university and still become chartered accountant. Okay, because he saw some relevance in it. Okay, so cybersecurity is not only limited to IT. People think that it's when you are IT inclined or technology savvy that you can go into cybersecurity career. No, it's open to everyone, irrespective of your background, because of the nature of it and because of how we are involved into it. Now, if you want to start, there are a lot of professional organizations or body like the ICA and those we have. We also have the cybersecurity professional body. Okay, so the one I'm representing now is called ISC Square. ISC Square is International Information Security System Consortium. So it's basically a professional body that train and issue certificate for members who pass the exams like the way ICA and those things. So those organizations will able to, or professional body will be able to give you some of the practical concept of cybersecurity and the new trend that you need to know. Okay, so there are other ones. I mean, when you are free, you can Google or you can search to get more information about it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So he will be available even after the session if you want to actually have. He's a professional, so you can actually get more from him. You want to augment it, Audrey?
Yes, please. Building a career in cybersecurity, like how my colleague Eric has mentioned, is for everyone. As we have noticed during COVID-19, people who were working a lot with our data, they needed to protect that data so that we don't get to see your name out there that you tested positive or not. We need lawyers, we need doctors, we need teachers, it's a field open to everyone. And when you are in IT, there's a corresponding role for you in cybersecurity. As long as you are working with data, as long as you are working with computers, as long as you are working with electronics, basically.
Okay. Anand. Can I go to Anand? Okay. So I would fill in for Anand. I would fill in for Anand.
IT industry, and then
increasing range here. So if you're going to do one of those things well, I think especially in a smaller geographic area, that would be the basis of more professional business or more reliance on you as an investigator if you're law enforcement.
Augmented from my own experience. Now, I'm a lawyer. I'm also into security, national security. So I wear two hats. I focus on cyber security, and now this is something I can tell you, and I share with all the panelists. Our panelists this morning have said. So I see a number of areas for those who are interested in this field. Now, one is an IT-specific field, where you have technicians and engineers who specialize on cyber security technical bits. Then you also have lawyers, for example, because the cybersecurity issues evoke crime. Crime has its basis in law. Law has many divisions. One of those divisions is criminal law. You also have civil law. You have international law. So you have international cyber law, international criminal law, international cyber criminal law. You have international cyber contracts. Those are in the area of civil. You have municipal law, which, you know, so lawyers have a big scope when it comes to that. In framing policies, framing domestic instruments, domestic law, you need lawyers. But first, apart from that, you would also need them to have some understanding about the area we are in question, that is cyber technologies. So I worked with national security. Prior to that, I had worked as legal director for telecom companies. I have worked with a healthcare giant, one of the largest in South Dakota, called Sanford Health, basically doing med IT law, med IT issues, you know. So a lot of scope avails to people who want to. I've talked about IT, I've talked about law. There's also the issue of policy. So there are issues to do with cyber policy itself. For example, human rights issues with the area of cyber, gender matters in the area of cyber. I specialize on war, law of war, so war issues, using cyber warfare and things like that. So there you need policy issues. So there's a scope for people who want to be policy makers, administrators, you want to work at the ministries, but focus on cyber. You see somebody like Audrey, a lot of her things also verge on developing, helping to develop national policy issues. Another area that I see is also solution provision. So that's the area of business, contracting, looking for solutions and setting up teams or setting up companies or enterprises that provides affected companies with training, consultancy, and things like that. Then the last bit is training and advocacy. First, training. So once you get into this field, you don't necessarily need to be, like for example, I don't specialize on the technical aspect. I specialize on the legal dynamics that are, so somebody has committed an offense against another. What law applies? Ghana has suffered a cyber attack, but it's coming from another jurisdiction. What laws would apply? Conflict of laws internationally would apply. So those kinds of issues are the domain of lawyers. Judges, for example, need to understand this area because we talk about cybercrime. The only person who, by our constitution, can pronounce somebody a criminal is a judge. And it must be in a court of competent jurisdiction. So judges have to move into this area. And now advocates. You might not be any of the above, but you might be a cyber advocate. Ghana has signed on to a number of international conventions. I mean, your NGO can now start spearheading a number of things in that area. There are NGOs, for example, that I know, like others like Center for Strategic and Defense Studies. They focus on cyber policy issues so that they want to be sure that the continent, the region, the country is actually focusing on its obligations to keep children safe, to keep people safe, to keep the enterprises safe, to keep businesses safe, to keep government machinery safe. There are international rules from the United Nations, from the International Telecom Union, from various other bodies in ECOWAS that hinge on this. So there's a lot of opportunity. If you are interested in further opportunity about this, please talk to us also after this session, and we can be able to be of help. But we have the experts actually sitting here with us. Now, I want to actually round up our session by getting from all our panelists their very last words. So I will start actually with our beautiful lady who is nestled between Eric and then Mr. Ramaswamy, and that is Audrey. So Audrey, your last words.
I would urge each one of us to get to know more about information security, cybersecurity, visit the cybersecurity website. There are quite a number of advisories there, that will show you current trends in cybersecurity, in cybercrimes. Visit them, acquaint yourselves, how to protect yourselves, and on how to stay safe online and how to do your online shopping, how to keep your documents safe, your government issued documents safe, and from identity thefts, how to keep your businesses safe. You have your employees working from home, how they're supposed to connect to your business networks safely. Visit the cybersecurity.gov.gh website, and we have a number of advisories for children, for public, for government, and for the general business at large.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. Before I just give a brief message, let me just give this one out to all the audience. We have a site known as Web of Trust, WOT. I would like all of us to just search about it, and anytime you have a link or web address that it looks suspicious, you don't know whether it's legit or malicious, you can just use that link to detect, okay, to safeguard us all. Also, just to go more for the youth also, most of the time we live on the social media, so the Facebook, the WhatsApp, and the stuff. And most of the time we download a lot of apps from Play Store, Google Store, just to have a few of some of the games and other things that we do on the phone. Please, most of the times these apps ask for permissions. Okay, so permission to your location, you grant. Permission to your camera, you grant. Permission to your microphone, you grant. You see that they're asking permission so that they will be the app will be assessing it. Okay, if you are not sure of the app, please, it's not all permission that you need to grant. It's very, very deadly. Okay, if the app is not going to use camera, video, and you download and asking for access to the camera, what for? So if you don't trust the app, don't install it. And even if you are giving permission to some of the genuine apps, like maybe WhatsApp, other things, you realize that for the first time, when you're on WhatsApp and you want to attach video or camera or whatever, send it, it asks for permission. Okay, but once you grant the permission, it doesn't ask anymore. Okay, so best advice I'm giving to us all is that, yes, we might have legit app. It is better you grant permission at the time you want to use it. So if I want to send a picture to someone, I grant permission to my camera, then I will deactivate the permission. If I want to send, at the time I want to send again, I will grant. But if you make it open, okay, and you are hacked or any means, through that, you can have an issue of security or privacy problem. Right, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to now go to Anand.
On behalf of the Department of Justice. And this has been very informative for me to see how similar our systems are in terms of suspicious activity reports from banks. Intelligence Center is essentially the same as our financial, are largely the same. The things are by which we're victimized.
Thank you, absolutely. And so, first, I want to thank, on behalf of all of us, the Ministry of Communications who have made this possible, who have launched this beautiful week, this beautiful month, that is giving Ghana and the world an opportunity to discuss and to ruminate over issues of cyber security, cyber crime, and cyber law. I want to thank also the Ministry of National Security for collaborating effectively to bring this program live also clear and very clearly to you. I want to thank also the principal actors who have been in this engagement, particularly the panelists, right from Anand, from the Diplomatic Service, to Audrey from the National Cybersecurity Secretariat, to Eric, who comes from the private sector and is a consultant in his own right in this particular area. I want to thank all those people, particularly also Dr. Albert Entry Bwesiakon, Mr. Owusu of the Cyber Center, for all the work that they have inputted, particularly also all those who have officiated for this program and its nuances. We also want to thank the SGI Secretariat. They prepared some of the questions and research background issues that I needed actually to fill it. I also want to thank the Center for Strategic and Defense Studies, whose members, were also very elemental in galvanizing questions and areas for discussion. Last but not least, I have to thank you, our distinguished audience. Without you, our ceremony, our activity, our discussion, and the things that we have thought about would not have come to proper fruition. So if you have heard any good thing, if you have heard any sweet thing, if you have had any opportunity, if you have had anything that is worth thinking about, of such things like the Bible says, please think about. And may God bless our country and bless all of you. Thank you. We're done. Thank you.
Program. We have the closing remarks by the MC. But then I would want to entreat all of you to send or report all cybercrime or cybersecurity incidents to www.cybersecurity.gov.gh/reports, or you download our mobile app on either Play Store or Android, iOS. And then you can also send us an email on report@cybersecurity.gov.gh or a WhatsApp on 050-160-3111, or you can call or send an SMS to 292. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Bye-bye.